reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, welcome to tonight's Town of Brunswick Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting for May 20th, 2024. We'll review the draft minutes of our previous meeting. It's a regular meeting held on April 15th, 2024. I'd like to draw your attention to page 6, fourth line down. The end of that sentence should read, "The variances would be approved." Noting that one correction, would a member make a motion to approve the draft minutes? I'll make the motion. Thank you, Patricia. Would a member second?
Second.
Thanks, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved with that one correction. We'll review the agenda as posted on the town website. We'll begin by Bradley, 3 Watson Avenue. It's a public hearing for 1 area variance, followed by Hyra at 302 Carroll's Grove Road, also a public hearing, 2 area variances, followed by Haas, New York State Route 7 and Carroll's Grove Road, 2 area variances, and lastly, Monsambo, Green Street, 1 area variance. So for the first time of business on the agenda, the board will open the public hearing on this application. We'll note that the notice was published in the Eastwood Press, placed on the town signboard, posted on the town website, and mailed to all owners of adjacent property within 300 feet of the project. The honors of reading the notice, please.
Yes, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Brunswick at 6 p.m. on Monday, May 20, 2024, at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 120. Concerning the application submitted by Travis Bradley for an area variance in connection with construction of an above-ground pool on property located at 3 Watson Avenue. The application requires 1 area variance or a front yard setback. Copies of the application are available at Brunswick Town Hall and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bradley, can you come up and just give us an overview of your project, please? Have there been any changes to the application since we were together in April?
There's no changes.
Okay.
Everything is where it's been.
Okay, very good. Yeah, good. So you want to take a seat? We'll continue. Thank you. And I guess, just real quickly, and you can answer it from your seat. Just to confirm, this project for the above-ground pool requires the 1 front setback area variance due to the paper street between your property and the neighbor's property southeast of yours. Is that correct?
I couldn't tell you the direction like that. Their neighbor, 4 Watson.
Okay.
So, yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you the south or west.
Yeah, that's, I believe that is true, right? So then, interestingly,
The address was 4 Watson.
Our neighbor is 4, we're 3, yeah.
Interestingly, again, the paper street is creating a front which would otherwise look like a side. Just kind of clarify that a bit. If there's anyone here for the public who would like to speak for or against the application? Are there any questions from any of the zoning board members? And Chuck, the building department has not received
We've
any
not received
comments.
anything, any letters or emails.
So public hearing, no public comment. I make a motion to close the public hearing with a number second. I'll second. Thank you, Patricia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The public hearing is closed. The zoning board members are prepared to deliberate and act on the application. And we'll note that it is a type 2 under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and no further secret determination is required. So we'll go through our elements. Please also, also to note that Rensselaer County Bureau of Economic Development and Planning has determined that the proposal does not have any major impact to the county and that local consideration shall prevail. The board is asked to explain how no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood, nor detriment to nearby properties created by granting the area variance. Okay, by saying granting the one front setback area variance would not produce an undesirable change to the character of the Swanson Avenue neighborhood, as above-ground pools, as requested, are common in this R9 residential setting. The board is asked to explain why the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. As noted in the application, the above-ground pool is being proposed at this location where the ground is fairly level and has some privacy. Other areas of the lot are already used for such things as the septic system and the leach field. The board is asked to describe whether the requested area variance is substantial. You'll note that it is a front setback in an R9 zoning district. What's being proposed is 29 feet. What is required is 60 feet. It's a 31-foot encroachment. And that's just kind of going back to the note that I brought up at the beginning of this. Visually, this setback looks like a side setback by the orientation of the lot, the orientation of the house on the lot. So looking at it, not knowing that there was a paper street there, and there isn't, it's a paper street. It looks like a side setback. In an R9 zoning district, the side setback that's required is 10 feet. So while 31 feet seems like a large distance, however, noting the way that the house is oriented to the lot, the amount of vegetation between this property and the neighbors, and the way that it backs up to the access road and then to National Grid, I believe it's not substantial. The board is asked to explain how the proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
Well, it's above ground pool, and, they only have to dig down like 6 inches in order to get the base. They're not taking down any trees. So there will be no environmental impact at all for them to put this in, so, no.
And then lastly, the board is asked to explain whether the difficulty is self-created, noting for consideration is relevant, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance. So yes, it is self-created. However, the property owner tried to mitigate the need for the area variances by merging the two adjoining lots. So if there's no other further deliberation, I would ask the board to consider the balance between a benefit to the applicant as weighed against any detriment to the community at large or the neighborhood in particular to determine to grant requested area variance.
I'll make a motion that we grant requested area variance.
Would a member second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Daryl. All in favor?
Aye.
So your area variance has been granted. Please kindly continue the work that you're doing on this matter with the building department. You gave your call. Yeah, great. The weather is really encouraging to get moving on that.
I'm sure my children will be very happy.
Yes, please tell them. Happy swimming for us. Good night. Thank you for coming.
So just reach out to Chuck tomorrow-ish. All right, thank you.
Yeah, take care.
You said.
Thank you. So our clock is not saying 6:15, but I think officially it is 6:15. Okay, so we'll proceed.
Music.
So next up, we have 302 Carroll's Grove Road. Mr. Hyra, if you just want to kindly come up, give us a brief overview of your project, and if there are any changes to the application, any new submissions that you'd like to make.
Good evening, thanks for taking the time to hear this matter. Yeah, I'm looking to put a 30 by 50 steel garage in front of my house. Anyone that's driven by it sees that the back of my property is the most beautiful part of my land. But the reason I can't put the garage in the back is because it leaks field and septic tanks. So it forced me to put it in the front. But in putting it in the front, I'm gonna put it further enough back, so basically as you come up my driveway, look to the right, you start to see woods and vegetation from that point to the road, and it would be to the left of that and further enough back, where you won't see it from Carroll's Road when you're driving up, and only obviously in the winter time when the leaves and further down, you'll see it from the road, but I'm not planning on cutting any trees or anything, leaving everything the same, there's no need to. So that's that. And then it looks like all my friends showed up. So,
Okay, thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we'll open the public hearing on this application. We'll note that it's published in the Eastwood Press, placed on the town signboard, posted on the town website, and mailed to all owners of adjacent property within 300 feet.
Okay, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the zoning board of appeals of the town of Brunswick at 6:15 p.m. or soon thereafter as may be heard on Monday, May 20, 2024 at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 12180. Concerning the application submitted by Alexander Hyra for 2 area variances in connection with construction of a garage on property located at 302 Carroll's Grove Road. The application requests 1 area variance for a front yard setback and 1 area variance for having an accessory structure in front of a primary structure. Copies of the application are available at the Brunswick Town Hall and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Anyone from the public would like to speak for or against the application? Any questions from the zoning board members? I just have a confirmation in regards to your application. The acreage, is that 2.33 or 3?
Yes, ma'am, 2.33.
3. Thank you very much. So hearing no public comment, I make a motion to close the public hearing portion of this application. Sorry. Oh, yes, it's that's right, I'm sorry. So Chuck, there's 1 written submittal
Yes, there was.
by a Christian Denner. Would you like to read that into the record, or?
I do not. Well, I can take my copy out.
Here it is, what do you want?
Right here. To Zoning Board of Appeals. regarding high-rise 302 Carroll's Grove Road dated 5/14/24. Dear Sir, I received the notice regarding the construction of a garage at Alex Hira, 302 Carroll's Grove Road. I do not have a problem with this. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you. Regards, Christian Danhert at 315 Carroll's Grove Road, Troy, New York.
Okay. So noting that one written comment and no public comment, I make a motion to close the public hearing with members. Thank you, Patricia. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is closed. The zoning board members are prepared to deliberate and act upon this application. We'll note that it is a type 2 residential under the seeker, so no further seeker determination is required. We'll also note that Rensselaer County Bureau of Economic Development and Planning has determined that the proposal does not have a major impact on county plans and that local consideration shall prevail. Board is asked to explain how no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by granting the 2 area variances. There's no undesirable change produced in the character of the Carroll's Grove Road neighborhood, nor detriment to nearby properties created by granting the proposed 2 area variances as accessory structures such as this 30 by 50 steel garage are common in this A40 zoning district residential setting. And the board is asked to explain why the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variances.
Well, he explained that the location of his well in the leach field in the back of his property, that he can't put it there. This is really the only place where it would go.
Board is asked to describe whether the requested area variance is substantial. Note there are 2 area variances, one being front setback, or being proposed is 40 feet, what is required is 75. 35 encroachments in this 840 ag overlay zoning district on 2.33 acre lot. And then the second requested area variance is for accessory structure in front of the primary structure. As stated, the proposed location is not visible from Carroll's Grove Road during the leaf-line conditions. It is designed to match the style of the house, and it will have a direct access to the existing driveway. The board is asked to explain how the proposed area variances will not have adverse effects on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
Well, as you mentioned, these type of garages and the size of them are uniform with whatever has been built in that area, so that size of the 840 lots, it's a standard size.
And then lastly, the board is asked to explain whether this difficulty is self-created, noting that the consideration is relevant but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of area variances.
Well, it's self-created because of where he has to put it. He can't put it in the back, he has to put it on the side or the front.
So if there's no other further deliberation, the board will consider the balance between the benefits to the applicant as weighed against any detriment to the community at large and the neighborhood in particular to determine the grant requested area variances.
I make a motion that we grant the 2 area variances.
Board member second.
Second.
Thanks, John. All in favor?
Aye.
So your variances have been granted.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're very welcome. Kindly continue the work you're doing with your fine building department.
Yes, ma'am.
Have a great night.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have the corner of New York 7 and Carroll's Grove Road. Mr. Justin Haas would like to kindly come up. I see that there have been some submissions since we last met in April. Perhaps we can go over those, or if anything else that you'd like to provide for us tonight. Go over that as well.
No, good evening. Nothing's changed. Just hopefully these photos can help clarify kind of what we're after.
Okay, great. And what we were after, taking off from our April meeting, were 5 things that the board identified as needing more information in order to consider the elements that we do in regards to granting area variances. It's been demonstrated in past 2 public hearings. The first was fencing, second was lighting, followed by vegetation, the design and color of metal buildings, and lastly, a letter from Mr. Bonesteel concerning the stormwater plan.
Right.
So the building department distributed to us this new submission, where we can go over that. We can go over all those 5 items, and we can take it from there. And zoning board members, if there are any questions that come up as we go through this information, please just bring those up. And you too, if you have any questions for us, just bring it up as we go through it. All right, so we'll begin. Let's begin by the first page. So it deals with the idea of the design and color of the metal buildings. So you provided 3 color options, I believe, right? Okay. So the first page shows with the red doors.
Yeah, that's actually a picture from my other place.
Okay, yep. And then there is, looks like gray on gray, and then the third looks like gray on white.
Brown on tan.
Okay, brown on tan.
And the other one I think is like bronze.
So, okay, so you tell me then. So the first one, I would say red doors. How are you saying that the second option is? What is that?
I think it's like an off black or bronze.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's like
I actually like that.
dark brown, like a.
Yeah, I actually like that.
Okay. And then the last color option?
Yeah, it's tan and brown. Yeah, tan and brown.
Thank you.
They more look like a country setting.
So in this rendering, showing the red doors from your previous establishment, it's showing material that looks like a crusher run for the vehicle rows. Is that what you're proposing?
No, we're doing blacktop.
Okay,
That blacktop since that.
okay, fine. Just wanted to clarify that. In the application, it does signify that's paid, but just wanted to clarify that, the rendering that was offered.
The new engineer does say if we stone it, that pond can shrink pretty good. But I want it blacktop.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So I mean, that is something we could do, I don't know, possibly.
And why would you prefer to do the pavement with blacktop?
So it looks good.
Okay.
Easier to plow, maintain, keep clean.
All right. So the second item that we're looking for is the lighting. So you've shown on the first page, the solar light, which is dusk to dawn. And then on the second page is what they look like, those wall packs that are motion detected.
Yep, they're all solar, they control themselves. They're downlighting, they don't point up.
So they are motion sensors.
Yeah. At night, it'll come on half power, and when somebody walks by, it goes full power for like 10 seconds, and then it goes back to half power. They actually work really well.
Good concept. And the third item was the vegetation on the third page. So I see two renderings. I see a star. The second rendering, is that what you're proposing? It's
Yeah,
a plant in line 4-6 feet apart.
yeah. I believe they wanted something along Route 7.
Yes.
That would help with that.
Right, and also in the public hearing, it came out that one of the neighbors, the abutting, the neighbors in the area, Daly, I believe, was looking to upgrade the fencing between the properties.
But there's 70 foot of woods between this property and his property.
Uh-huh,
Not like it's gonna sit on his deck.
yeah.
There's 70 foot of woods.
Mhm.
I mean, it's crazy.
Okay, yeah.
Are the trees gonna be inside the fence line, or is there a fence line on the front where the trees will be, or
I believe it's gonna be inside the fence
it'll be inside the fence?
line. We had the drawing, I don't have it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here, just looking at it,
But they have that extra piece of property that they purchased, right,
Yeah,
before they get to one of your.
yeah, then they got their setback, so they're 70 foot away from where we are.
I would just say that because if it's inside the fence line, depending on what type of trees you pick, obviously the deer are gonna eat them, and then next thing you know, you don't have a tree line.
True.
So if they're deer resistant, that's fine, they could be outside, but just as a point, know whether or not they can be inside or outside. They'd be protected on the inside, and you can see the fence, so if the point is to protect the fence or hide the fence, you probably wanna go with a deer resistant tree line so that it stays there. Because otherwise, what good is it, you're gonna tear it apart, and they'll be coming back here complaining that there's no tree line.
Are you proposing trees along that side of the property? Who's that?
No.
No, he's not proposing trees along that.
I believe along Route 7.
Right.
You're proposing trees
Yeah.
along the front, but you're not proposing trees along between your property and Daley's.
No, just a
There's
fence.
gonna be a fence,
Fence.
but no trees there.
I mean, we thought about wood and fencing, but you gotta paint them, stain them, maintain them. Vinyl fencing, they get green and mildewy, you gotta clean them. Chain link, you don't touch them.
That brings us to the fence page. Right, the last page shows the 6-foot chain link fence. That's right. And then so that was the 4 of the 5 issues that the zoning board requested at the April meeting for the May meeting. The final piece was a letter from Mr. Bonesteel concerning the stormwater plan. So the zoning board members are in receipt of a letter written by Mr. Wayne Bonesteel dated May 17th, 2024. Do you have a copy?
No, I never seen it.
Go ahead.
Chuck, do you have a copy for the applicant?
I am looking for one in here. It'll probably be easier for me to just grab one of the members and I'll make a copy of it for Mr. Haas. Where is she in here?
Sure, I can give you mine for now. You can review it while Chuck is,
We are right here.
I got her.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll make another copy for the record.
Okay. So it's been brought up at all our subsequent meetings about the stormwater drainage. Because of the land that you're considering clearing, because of the buildings that you're proposing to put up, and then the surface of the roadways within that lot. So the calculations related to that water runoff is significant item for the zoning board members to consider whether or not to determine to grant the area variances.
Right.
So we've received this letter from Mr. Bowen Steele. And I'll enter it into the record, Chuck. I don't think it necessarily needs to be read into the record unless someone thinks that this should be read into the record. Otherwise, we'll just say that the letter from May 17, 2024, in the capacity of the town engineer, the town of Brunswick engineer, will submit that letter to the record, please.
Matt Bond is the new engineer on this,
Yeah,
and he advised me that the stormwater retention
Yeah.
would be between planning.
right. So that
So- He'd say, if anything, that pond would actually, we would lose a building, not gain a building if it had to go bigger. So it actually would hurt us, not help us. So he said, he don't know why they want stormwater plan before we get the plan.
Right. So I would understand it as it's an environmental concern that the zoning board members need to consider. And to grant the area variances, and then it goes to the planning board where they kind of fine tune that. The size, the dimension, the capacity.
But he said it's easily designed because we don't know and get into all that
Right,
because it's a ton of money.
yeah,
And as you know, I don't own this property.
right,
So I'm not putting all that money into that
right,
and for somebody to say, oh, I'll see you later.
right.
I'm already in pretty deep, so.
And I sympathize with that, and I understand that dilemma that you have. So what I will propose is you could get us that information from the engineer that you're speaking with and submit it to the zoning board at our next meeting.
Because he already said, if anything, we get the missing more of a building. We'd shrink the building.
Right,
So that's the only thing that's gonna happen.
right,
We're not gonna shrink the pond and add a building.
right,
We would lose a building and add a pond.
right.
So, I mean, he said it's normally planning and him. And I'm not spending $30,000 to get a piece of paper made.
Right,
Uh,
yes, right. So that's where we're at.
And I can't hire him to make up letters and stuff. I actually have to hire him.
Yes, right.
He has to review it.
Yes,
You know, it's like, it's kind of,
we're caught,
we're caught.
yeah.
Obviously, if it ain't gonna work, planning's gonna say it's not gonna work.
And they would not know that without seeing some sort of storm water plan, like the zoning board would need to see some
So
sort
we
of.
have a plan of dimension, we have that.
Right, so what it's missing is, it's missing a letter from DEC saying that this is satisfactory to this lot. It was mentioned that in the application that there are engineering calculations related to the water runoff, but it's never mentioned who or what engineering company performed those calculations.
Dan Gilder did your calculations inside that pond for the site. And when it goes to the final building permit, we would have it in stone.
So let's understand, why is it becoming an issue in front of the zoning?
And I have to pay to have the entire SWIP done.
I'm just explaining why it's an issue in front of the zoning board, I'm not here to argue.
Yeah, but you guys gotta understand, I can't just come up with a huge plan without
Okay,
pretty much a first approval.
I understand.
You know what I mean? That's where I'm at.
Yeah, so then, oh, sorry.
So what you're asking the zoning board to do is to make a determination of environmental significance under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Those issues are pertinent to that discussion. And then, as you heard earlier, there are several elements which the zoning board has to consider on whether to grant with conditions or deny the variance. They determined that information concerning the stormwater plan, the size of the pond, the layout of the site are relevant to some or all of those factors. That's why they asked you for it. That's why they asked the town's engineer, who does assist the planning board, to provide some professional opinion and review of what you submitted. And what this board has been advised by the town's engineer is that the information is not adequate for him to opine whether it works. He observes it's a tight site, but he's not able to render an opinion. That leaves this board in a very difficult spot of not having potentially adequate information on which to base a decision. That's all.
But if
While
it's
you're
going
into-
to planning afterwards,
Well, understand that a plan.
because I can't do nothing without a permit.
Again, I'm not
You
here
know?
to argue with you, sir.
No, I'm just,
And I understand you're in front of the planning board.
Yeah.
But understand the planning board cannot act on a site plan that's not in compliance with the zoning law. The reason you're in front of this board is your project does not comply with the zoning law. It needs variances, it needs relief from that zoning law.
no, I get it. I mean, but we can't keep dancing back and forth month after month. I'm
This
already
is
in
not-
6 months,
Okay, that's fine.
you know? I'd rather have a yes or no. Let's go there.
Okay, so, so what you're asking if I understand correctly, you're asking the board to make a decision on, information that is incomplete. So we can make a decision
Because I'm not
anytime.
gonna pay this guy $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to get you a drawing. And then something fall through.
And that's your
Can I say
choice.
something?
Yeah.
You keep bringing it back that the planning board is the one who's gonna have to approve it. The planning board is not gonna approve it without you spending the same amount of money to see what we wanna see.
Well, if I come back here after,
No. They're gonna wanna see the same thing we wanna see.
so you
You're
wanna
not gonna
switch
get
it up?
approval from the planning board without spending that money. Whether you spend
Correct,
it
but I
now
can't
or
get
then,
through
you're
a
gonna have
variance,
to
I can't
spend
get
it.
through a planning.
You're gonna have to spend it before you get an approval.
So if I understand correctly, it's the choice that you're making. And, you're asking the planning board, to determine whether or not, to make a decision on incomplete information.
Well, we're running out of time here because this is under contract for so long.
That's fine.
Mr. Barrel ain't sitting around too much longer.
Mhm.
I don't plan on sitting around too much longer.
Fine, right,
You know,
that's.
I mean, I can talk with Matt Bond and see if he can, but I know the numbers, I'm doing a full SWIP. Unless I can get something here that says we can move forward, that's fine.
So the only way that we would move forward would be to, request additional information, which would be this one.
If we can get approved on variance for setbacks, which I thought this is what this is,
It is.
neighbors, and if I can put this building in this location, not the color and all that other stuff. If I can put this building on this location with that setback, we can move forward.
So I thought as we demonstrated, like the colors and the lighting and the fencing, the vegetation, are all part of it.
Would you go spend $50,000 on a gamble on a zoning board?
That is a question that you're allowed to ask. So I'm going to ask the zoning board members, we can continue and act upon the information that we have. We could request more information.
I would say that we act on the information that we have. The applicant has already said that he does not, at this point, does not want to go forward with providing us with the information.
Any other opinions?
They put us in a spot where we got to walk it down without the right information.
Yeah, if the pond changes and it changes the whole layout of the buildings and the structures, whether you use the building or not, or reconfigures them, that could potentially change the whole thing that we're talking about with lighting and vegetation and all sorts of stuff. So I get a feeling that without seeing all that and the approval from the town engineer to weigh in from whatever information we would get from an engineer, I can't see how we move forward. Is there a possibility of having a joint zoning and planning meeting?
No, because they'll need the same information. I'll just advise the planning board, or strike that this zoning board, that you close the public hearing at the April 15th meeting. Under both state law and Brunswick zoning law, you have 62 days in which to render determination on the requested area variances. We calculated that. It actually expires one day before your next regularly scheduled meeting in June. I would certainly recommend to the board, it's within your discretion on how you wish to proceed, that the board make sure that we have reviewed the record, that we've identified the information that's submitted, the additional information requests that were made, the response by the applicant to that, and then have that in front of you before your render determination, which in this case would require you to consider a special meeting before your regular meeting, just for this application and determination. So that's within your discretion. I would recommend making sure we have that record reviewed and ready for your review before you act, but again, that's within your discretion.
Right, so we would have to ask the applicant if you're in agreement with that, they would like to push it out. Or we would-
Well, there's an option. An applicant always has the ability to grant an extension to that 62-day period to run through your meeting in June. And if that's not granted, then you can consider either acting tonight or scheduling a special meeting prior to your regular June meeting. Again, that's within your discretion and how you wish to proceed.
All right, Mr. Justin Hahn, so I'll ask if you would be willing to extend the 62-day period one more day to the regular time that the board meets, which is June, the third Monday of June, which is the 17th. So like Mr. Fieldcrest explained, the 62 days is up on the 16th. So we would ask for one additional day to extend that. And that would be for the purpose of requesting additional information. If you don't want to do that, you can do two other things. Now we have to schedule a special meeting with the zoning board. So it would be us and you, and at different time, generally a Monday, another Monday in June, before the 16th. Or the third would be for us to take the information that we have in front of us now and to make a determination.
Make a determination.
That's what we'll do. Yeah, okay, I appreciate that.
Obviously, it has to be done to DEC and everything, so this will work on that property, and we're not gonna say, oh, we'll make something up later, it has to be done correctly.
Right.
Matt Bond has already been there, seen the site, has everything getting ready to do it. But as I said, it's not cheap to do.
Right.
So,
Right. All right, so that's what the zoning board will proceed then.
All right. Again, I would recommend, you do have a 62-day period. The requested extension was not granted by the applicant. I think it would be important on the record to review that and make sure that what has been submitted and the additional information that have been requested by the board, have that in front of you. You can act anytime up through and including June 16th.
So we can schedule a special meeting and then.
That's correct.
The board will schedule a special meeting in the month of June, I had to look at the calendar.
But just to be clear though, we're still under the impression that we would want something from an engineer to satisfy the town engineer at that special meeting.
As I understand it, that request has already been made, and the applicant has already stated he will not be making that submission. The request remains outstanding up until the time you act.
So therefore, nothing changes from this evening.
Right. So I gotta wonder, is there a need to have a special meeting who's not gonna provide the documentation?
Because I would like to have the opportunity to review the record. If there's any decision to be made, I want that decision clear. I'd like it based on the record. And in order to do that, I think it's beneficial to the board that have that record reviewed and outlined prior to the election.
So June the 3rd is a Monday.
2 weeks from,
Yes.
2 weeks today.
How's that sound for you, John Schmidt? Okay. Good?
Yeah.
Okay.
6,
June 3rd?
3rd.
no.
I'm sorry, 6, yes, 6 o'clock.
6 p.m.
Okay. So Chuck, the zoning board is going to hold a special meeting on Monday, June 3rd at 6 PM.
Got it.
And we'll prepare that notice of special meeting again.
So that's our plan. We're going to meet on June 3rd at 6 o'clock.
Me or no?
If you'd like to come, you're invited to be there.
So if Mr. House was able to obtain some information, obviously, you should bring that, right?
Sorry.
If you were able to obtain any type of information that is relevant to what we're speaking about, you should bring it.
I could have Matt Bond,
Or as soon as you get it, try to get it to
Something.
Chuck, who can get it to us and review it prior to the meeting. Would be helpful too. So that way we're just not here.
pretty much I have to hire him and pay him a ton of money just to do something. That's how it works.
That's the first time you saw the letter that was given to you tonight?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get that to your engineer and you can come up with something that can satisfy Mr. Bonesteel's requirement in the interim, and
Now, the other-
we'll review that information that
Yeah.
night.
Now, the other engineer, Van Gilder, his whole site plan and all that doesn't render anything? He did run off. he did
Because
their
of Mr.
calculations. I have all
Bonesteel's
that.
letter, that can override that information. So unfortunately, whatever was done previously,
I'll be honest with you, if I own the land, I would pay and have it done, I don't care.
Understandable.
Right now, I'm not gonna gamble and then lose, pay, you know what I mean? It just don't make sense, it's $250,000.
So I believe, and Mr. Gilchrist can confirm this, that applicant could withdraw at any, is that true? Can you withdraw an application at any time? So you have the ability to withdraw your application at any time.
So I have a question, if the applicant, if it's withdrawn, can it be started up again? Is there like a period of time? You know, maybe Mr. Farrell gets involved 3 months down the road and changes something, just, I mean, can he pick up where he left off, so to speak?
Well, in terms of zoning law, doesn't answer that question. There's no, could be a waiting period, but any new application will start the process from the beginning. You need a new application, and start the process over. In the event this will be over.
Maybe we'll see you on the 3rd.
Maybe.
Okay.
See you. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good night.
It's part of the,
That's the uniform.
part of the uniform, that's right.
Right. Just a question. Sure.
You don't have to give you the copy, do you?
Copies of copy.
Because Wendy will say, that was the original.
All right, so moving on to Green Street. And this is a continuation discussion on the application. I believe that at this meeting, we wanted to review the key measures, which were from the applicant's responses to the public comments, and whether or not these measures were proper and enforceable conditions, and then the appropriateness of potential conditions for action by the ZBA. Chris, you picked this up as being a task that you wanted to address.
Indeed. So I did review the key measures that were submitted by the applicant, very well done, and in my opinion, some of them clearly pertain to the land use, and some of them are more in the nature of private contractual issues as between owner and contractor. really not an issue for the municipality or for the zoning board. I did identify 3 that I'll simply list out that I think could be considered by the zoning board, and they are taken in some substance from the key measures, but they are in the nature of land use, enforceable land use conditions. First one is marking boundaries and setbacks during construction. You can see the clear relation to the actual land use. No storage of materials or equipment on the public road or any off-site property, and all materials and equipment to be stored on this particular parcel during construction. And then on the issue of truck parking or traffic on the town road, I thought it might be something for the board's consideration, rather than dictating that, would be to require the applicant to coordinate with the town highway department on any truck parking or site entrance issues during construction. Those I thought were related to the actual land use and within the municipal consideration for enforceable conditions on the land use determination. And I think the balance of these really would be private contractual issues as in between owner and contractor. Those were just from the key measures submitted by the applicant. It's within the board's discretion to determine any other conditions based on the board.
After hearing those 3 key measures discussed by Mr. Gilchrist, does anybody have any questions on them or like to expand on them? Any comments on them? So as you know, this public hearing has been closed. The applicant has submitted the responses, his responses to the comments that were made. Are the members prepared to deliberate and act upon the application, or is there any other information that you need at this time? Okay, we're good. Super. Okay, thank you very much. So the zoning board will review the elements for consideration on the area variances in regards to this application. We'll note that it's a type 2 residential application under seeker, so no further seeker determination is required. The zoning board members will review the standard elements for consideration of the area variance. The board is asked to explain how no undesirable change will be reduced in character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by granting the area variance. So when considering if an undesirable change would be produced in the character of a neighborhood, or detriment to nearby properties, the board could consider whether the dimensional alterations being proposed will result in a structure or a configuration that will be seriously out of place in the neighborhood.
So we received information from the building department of different structures in that area, and they're all similar in size, similar in lot size. So it is not going to be out of character from what the rest of the structures are in the neighborhood.
And the neighborhood is R9, so that will maintain it. And also to note that the setbacks are met, they are in compliance. Board is asked to explain why the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance.
The zoning law was changed in 2017 and changed that area to an R9, that's correct, right? And it was still a non-conforming lot of record. So there is no other option for him.
We're asked to describe whether the requested area variance is substantial. So in an R9 zoning district, what's being proposed is a 6,000 square foot structure. What is required is 9,000 square feet. Lot, sorry. Yes. The board is being asked to make a reasoned judgment as to whether the nonconformity being proposed is too great as compared to the lawful dimensions allowed by the zoning law.
After the house is built, if you drive by in 3 years, you won't notice the difference between that lot and the other lot in that street.
The board is asked to explain how the proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
If anything, it's probably gonna increase the values of the residences around them. It's gonna be a newer home.
Then I think concerning the neighbors, if we looked at those key measures that were proposed by the applicant, was highlighted by Mr. Gilchrist. I think we can take those into consideration in determining to grant or deny the application. Because I think a few of them directly answer this question about the effects on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And then lastly, the board is asked to explain whether this difficulty is self-created, noting the consideration is relevant but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance.
Well, it is self-created because he wants to build there. It's a non-conforming lot, but he has met requirements as far as the setbacks. And is able to package a well-appointed home in that area.
So the three key measures that were proposed by the applicant that you highlighted, could they be made into conditions?
And just so the board is clear, the record's clear, I can repeat those again.
Yeah.
That the applicant is to mark boundaries and setbacks on the lot during construction. You can consider how they want to be marked. No storage of materials or equipment on the public road or any off-site lot. All materials and equipment must be stored on this lot, the tax ID number. And the applicant must coordinate with the town highway department on truck parking and site entrance issues during construction. Again, those are within your discretion in terms of how boundaries or setbacks are to be marked, that's within your discretion.
Yeah, so I find these three measures very reasonable. Earlier in the discussion that we had with the applicant was, I think silt fencing was proposed at some point to provide the boundary between this lot and the neighboring lots. Does anybody have an issue with continuing with the silt fencing or
I
another?
think the rear lot sits higher though,
It does.
so the silt fencing would benefit him, so I would leave that up to him, I think, for the rear. I don't so much drainage or runoff to an uphill lot, but for the sides, I can see that. Has the lot been resurveyed where the pins are obviously viewable or stakes are in the ground right now, so your neighbors are seeing the corners?
Stakes are physical, marking for boundaries are physical. But it hasn't been resurveyed.
Okay.
Since the last survey.
Well, first to make sure that you're marking the lines correctly, that'll have to go by with where the actual pins are and have it surveyed, I would assume.
Yes,
You haven't had that done?
I'll have the guy come out. Okay.
I'm sure more pins will probably put flags on.
Yeah.
But there was silt fencing up there, right?
It's like a third of the front, third of the side.
Right.
You know, left and right front, and the front side as well.
Yeah.
But for me, 2/3 the size of that, so.
So we would want that, right? Would that be a
Yes.
I
condition?
would say so.
Yes.
Because there's also a difference in the front between your actual boundary and the street's paved edge. So if you understand that we're talking about the lot line boundary is going to be different, which means it'll be inset from the paving of the road.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's to mark the property boundary, and do you also want the setbacks marked to make sure that the structure is within the required setbacks? That's within your discretion. Or that can be simply subject to building department inspections.
This is close enough where I would have them probably do the foundation location off the footing. As soon as the footing's poured, we'll have a foundation location done at that point.
So the condition would be
Property boundary.
property boundary line marked with silt fencing, and then a requirement to do the foundation location once that's poured, correct?
Just the footing.
Footings?
Yeah. When they're tight, I take them off the footings because you can move the wall a little bit on top of the footing, but you can't move a wall that easily. So.
Is there a setback requirement for silt fencing, or can it be put right on the property?
Just temporary fence.
And then the second one, no storage of equipment or materials outside the lot, 90.20-8-15. It sounds very reasonable, very straightforward. We spoke before about finding an alternative place, like a staging area. I believe one of the neighbors offered up the farm back there, if we could support it. Suggested, yeah. And then lastly, coordinate with the town highway department regarding the truck and site issues. So it wouldn't be the building department, it would be the highway department. Any questions or additions to that? Okay. So after considering the balance between the benefit to the applicants is weighed against any detriment to the community at large or the neighborhood of Green Street in particular, zoning board determined to grant, deny, or grant with conditions the request of variance. Would a member like to make a motion? Okay, thanks, Daryl. You make a motion, sorry, go ahead. To grant with the conditions
Yes,
that were laid
grant,
out?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Would a member second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So your area variance has been granted, and we continue to work with doing with the line building. Thank you. Have a good night and good luck with your project. He just said, come on, come on. Any other items for your business tonight? No. Okay. So, adjourn this meeting. Motion adjourned, number second. Mr. Sets, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Good night. That's right. Somebody go.